All right, welcome back. Just yesterday, LEGO released for sale two new dioramas with Emperor's Throne Room and the Endor Speeder Bike Chase. So today, we're going to compare those two sets with the three diorama sets released last year, along with Darth Vader's Meditation Chamber and Bespin, or the Duel on Bespin, as what I call the two honorary dioramas, and to figure out which diorama is best. When we look at these dioramas and evaluate and ask this question, which one is best, we're going to evaluate them on three criteria. We're going to equally weight those three criteria. They are, first, how iconic is the scene that's represented? Is this a scene that it doesn't matter if you're a Star Wars fan or not, you know who said it and what that scene is? Or is it so niche that you have to be a die-hard Star Wars fan to know what that scene is? Second, I'm going to rate the build. So I'm going to tell you which builds I thought were the most enjoyable, give you some reasons why I enjoyed those builds, and we're going to rank those accordingly on the scale of 1, the build maybe had a lower piece count, didn't have a lot of detail to put into it, or on the 10 side, was really cool, had some fun techniques, and I just genuinely left the build having enjoyed myself. Super subjective, but hey, that's my ranking. And the last one, we're going to look at the display ability of each set. Meaning, how good does that display look on your shelf when it's completed and done? Does it have anything that's neat or interactive about it? Or is it just kind of a static display that might be hard to evaluate from a distance or might not have all of the qualities you look for in a set? So stay tuned.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
All right, our first set is one of the new ones for 2023, the Emperor's Throne Room. We just saw the scene, and it's definitely an iconic one. We're putting this iconic scale. This is an 8 out of 10 for iconic. Definitely a memorable one from Star Wars. When we look at the build on the set, I'm putting this build at an 8. This build is really good. There's a lot of technique that goes into it for a diorama, probably the most technique out of any of the dioramas. But it is well done in a lot of places. It also does a nice job around the back, putting in this detail that you can see on the back of the throne room. Was a really cool method for using two kind of bended wire pieces that go around. They get clipped on, but it really gives a great effect when looked at from the front. So there's nothing really I enjoy more in Legos when you have a different technique to get a cool result. Lastly, on the display side, for me, this one is a 9. This set displays almost perfect. Hard to find anything wrong with it. They have good studs in place for the minifigures. The chair swivels, Palpatine's represented well. There's 2 other studs down here to represent other scenes. We also have the lightning bolts stored underneath as well. So if we want to recreate this scene with Palpatine using Force Lightning on Luke, that is doable too. Very cool set to kick off the review.
Quick, jam their comlink, center switch!
Next set up is also a new one for 2023. This is the Endor Speeder Bike Chase. Just saw the scene there, and for me, this is a scene that ranks a little bit lower. In fact, I think it's probably the lowest one on the list. I would put this scene at a 4 out of 10. Not necessarily what I would call the most iconic scenes, especially to celebrate Return of the Jedi's 40th anniversary. When I look at it from a build standpoint, I had a lot of fun personally building the set, except for these trees. I did not enjoy the process of building the trees, stacking them up, and putting those bricks on. It just felt maybe a little, I don't even know if it was monotonous so much as it just didn't have a lot of creativity that I felt while putting it together. The set piece is a little lower too on this one. It's reflected in the cost, but I'm not reviewing this from a cost or value standpoint. You're kind of putting these all on a level playing field from that standpoint of price. So for me, when I look at this on a build quality, I'm putting this one at a 6. Lastly, from the display side, it does display really nice. I love how the speeders look. They got some cool angles going through the trees. Sets up well. For me, this one on display ability is a 7.5. Really well done from how it looks at the end and how well it can display.
One thing's for sure, we're all going to be a lot thinner.
We are now into the 2022 sets with the trash compactor scene. So when we look at trash compactor on iconic scale, I have this one at a 6 out of 10. Really memorable for those of us who maybe had our first Star Wars experience watching A New Hope. Probably has faded with time just a little bit. Still memorable scene. Really, really cool set. The build, I was a big fan of this build. I love the smooth tiles pieces that are put off. It's really well tiled off. Good minifigures that are set up for the display as well, with Chewbacca, Han Solo, and Luke, also Princess Leia, and what I'd almost call an Easter egg after building it, but not a full-on Easter egg, right? It's more of an Easter egg for those of you looking at it as someone else's set. It does have the R2 and C-3PO, so a lot of minifigures. Really cool setup. For me, this build is an 8. Love it. There's also the ability to, I don't see if I can one-hand it, but to actually get the walls to slide in. They do slide in on the trash compactor scene, so I give that one props. It was cool to build it that way. It also plays into how well, for me, this set displays. For me, this set is an 8 on display ability. The ability to move it in and out is pretty cool on a display set. It looks nice on the shelf. If you look at it, you know that this is a trash compactor scene from Star Wars. Really well done.
Let go, Luke.
The Force is strong in this one.
Luke, trust me.
Another 2022 set. This is the Death Star Trench Run. Iconic scene in Star Wars history. I struggled on the ranking on this one, on where to start and where to stop this scene at. If we're just going from how the scene is quoted, I'm going to give this one an 8.5. If we're going holistic on the scene, Death Star blowing up, probably going to push a 9. But I'm going to sit with 8.5 for this one. Luke lowers a targeting computer in this scene. Really, really cool, represented in the trench run. So we have 8.5 for iconic. The build, we'll get up a little closer, a ton of detail in the scene. It was, or in this scene, in this diorama, putting together the ships was also very rewarding. Really like that part of it. So for me, on a build side, this was a lower piece count set. I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10, mainly from the lower piece count side of it. It does pack a lot of punch for the pieces it has, but for me, this is a 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 also on display ability. It can be a little bit difficult to see what's going on. It kind of looks like this grayish blur with some things out of it from a distance. You get close and you can really appreciate the detail. For me, what makes some of these dioramas really work is the minifigures part of it. So I like this set. It was enjoyable to put together. I ended on a 7 for display ability.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
All right, I'll give it a try.
No. Try not. Do. Or do not. There is no try.
Next up, we have the Degobah Training scene. One of the classic lines in Star Wars, classic moments here. For me, this one, from an iconic standpoint, is going to get a 9 out of 10. Almost as good as it gets. Almost. When we look at the build side of things, I love how the curved pieces get integrated throughout Yoda's hut, the trees, the curves, some of the details in the leaves. Putting that together was incredibly rewarding. And contrary to some, I really liked putting down the green tiles. So individual green tiles for the water is how this set's put together. For me, I loved that from the detail side. When I can put together a detailed set and actually see the detail popping as I put it together, really rewarding. For me, as a build, this one gets an 8 out of 10. When I think about the display of the set, this is a 9 out of 10 for me on how well it displays. It sets up nice. You can see what's going on. I love the X-Wing. I love when you get up close and you can see the bubbles coming out from the X-Wing starting to rise. There's things like the face on Luke Skywalker from the minifig, the mud on R2-D2. That attention to detail for me gets this one to be a 9 out of 10 for it displays. Awesome set.
Yes, Admiral.
Next up, Meditation Chamber. When we think about the scene we just watched, it really comes in when we're looking at iconicness of the scene is what your frame of reference for Star Wars is. If the first time you saw that scene, you didn't know that Darth Vader was Luke's father, you hadn't seen the prequels, it was just watching the movie. It was this mysterious thing about who is this Darth Vader, who's the person under the mask, why does he have to wear this? So for me, that's the lens I look at it in. From an iconic nature, this is a 7 out of 10. Really cool scene. The build with the technique on the side to raise and lower the chamber was well done. I like little details like in the back to hold the lightsaber. Also well done. It was just a fun build to put together. I would give this on a build a 7 out of 10 also. Where this one lacks for me a bit is in the display. While this technique is good for raising and lowering, it just looks a little out of place when it's on a shelf. It's hard to see what's going on inside there. Like, is that Darth Vader in there? Like, I'm struggling to get the camera angle for you to even see that detail. Another thing I dislike from a display standpoint, so you have this is a single stud where the figure is meant to stand, but when I stand the figure there, when you lower the meditation chamber, he gets kicked out of the way. So I think that's kind of an oversight. And if you want to have that as part of the display, the raise and lowering, you miss out on it. You're probably not going to display it shut, but you want to have the ability to raise and lower it. So for me, this is probably the lowest on the display side I'd go. And I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 10 for display.
He told me enough. He told me you killed him.
No. I am your father.
Okay. Our last one to display, another honorary diorama, is the Duel on Bespin. Just saw the scene, iconic nature. Probably going to give that one a 4 out of 10. Just kidding. That's a 10 out of 10, folks. That's probably the most iconic scene in all of Star Wars, maybe all of movies. If you have friends who've never seen Star Wars, first off, they're probably not your real friends. Second off, they still know what that scene would be. That's a 10 for iconic nature. On this set with the build, I know it's not a true diorama, but this set is about just over 200 pieces or under 300. It's in that really small piece count range. It's really simple to put together. I liked putting it together, but from a build, it's hard for me to go high on a build with such a low piece count. This one's going to go at a 5 for build. It's just lower piece count compared to others. I understand that MSRP on it was lower too, but I'm not accounting for price in any of this as a outlook either. When we look at how well it displays, again, this one's going to get an 8. It displays really, really well. Where I'm going to knock it is since it is so small, when you put this on a shelf, it kind of gets lost. So it needs its own display to really make it pop. It needs to be displayed on a desk or like in a wall case. I actually just ordered a wall case on this that I can show to from, I'd have to find the box to show where I got it from, but I just ordered a wall mount for this exact reason. I think it needs a dedicated display case or display method to really make it pop and give it what it deserves for being such an iconic scene. So for me, on a display side, I'm going to give it an 8. It does well, but it doesn't have the flexibility, and that's what's preventing it from moving up to a 9 or higher. Look at our final list. Here are the rankings. We looked at the iconic nature of the scene. How memorable is it? We looked at the build quality. How much did I enjoy putting the sets together? What stood apart for me on those builds? And then finally, on the display side, how well does that set up a display in an office? Does it look good? Can you tell what the scene is? Here are the results, and let me get back to the camera. These are my top 3. How do you rank them? Where did I get it right? Where did I get it wrong? Comment in this comment section, If you like the video, like it, subscribe to the channel. Let me know what other content you're looking to see too. And until next time, take care.